Welcome. Today we're talking about Candace Owens and how she thinks that she's all knowledgeable about the LGBTQ community. If you're interested, just keep watching.
Now it is true we have landed upon the T in our society. What began, of course, what preceded it was the L, the G, and the B. And I want to talk about this because there are some statistics that feel a little bit impossible to me, okay? So, a Gallup poll found that today 7.1% of adults in the United States identify as either lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans, or something other than straight or heterosexual. Now, 7.1% today, but in 2012, 10 years ago, that number was 3.5%. So, what changed? How did we more than double the amount of adults that identify as LGBTQ or something other than heterosexual since 2012? That just feels a little bit impossible to me.
That's a big jump. Now, what I would ask you, first of all, is the poll that you talked about 10 years ago, is that the Gallup poll as well? Because different polls will come up with different numbers. Another thing is, our society has changed a lot in 10 years. We've gone through different presidents and we've had, um, there's just a lot of evolution in our society. And so if you're talking about how many people are open about being LGBTQ, then you can't judge that on, we don't know exactly why more people are saying that. But you've got people that were coming up who were perhaps 8 years old at that time, and now they're 18 years old, so they've gotten into their adult years. So you've got a whole nother generation of kids who are now 18 and over who could vote in that poll. And if you just look at social media, how far we've come in social media in 10 years, it's not that surprising.
Now, I wanted to talk about this topic in terms of some recent experience that I had that really challenged me to think about it in a different way. So, first and foremost, a few years ago, it seemed a little bit innocuous at the time, but now it has a lot more meaning. I was walking down the street in Washington, D.C. There is a lot, especially in inner cities, you know this, and people will say, because if you're gay or you're lesbian, you move to an inner city because you will be more accepted. There's more people, obviously. But in DC, there is a high presence, particularly along 14th Street, of lesbian and gay people, and they're out, and there's a lot of rainbow flags. And I was walking down the street with an immigrant, a person that was from Eastern Europe and was visiting the United States. And they asked me this question very seriously. They said, Candace, why are there so many gay people in America? And I sort of laughed because it was just such, I don't know, the audacity of the question, but also because of how sincere the individual was being when they asked it. It wasn't said from this stance of homophobia. There was no fear of gay people, but they're just asking, like, hey, actually, why are there so many? And I didn't answer their question in a meaningful way, but they then said to me, well, we just don't have this many gay people in Eastern Europe. We just don't have this many people. And I thought, like you're probably thinking, oh, well, it's probably just cultural differences. Maybe you actually do have that many gay people and you just don't realize it because they're scared to come out, right? That's the idea. They're trembling in a closet everywhere else but in America because we've become open and we've become accepting. Now, Eastern Europe is not Saudi Arabia. You're not going to get thrown off of buildings for being gay. And yet, this person was telling me that this seemed bizarre to them, that there were this many people waving rainbow flags, this many gay couples walking down the street. That conversation stayed with me.
There are numerous reasons why people don't come out in public or even in a Gallup poll, because in some parts of the United States, even, it is not safe to be out. Now, if you're walking down a street in Washington, D.C., and you see all these gay flags and everything out there, well, that's a certain neighborhood that's got that. That's not everywhere in the United States. You could go down my street and you wouldn't see any rainbow flags in front of my house or on my car. And my neighbor has flags out. He's got an American flag and a Marines flag. You wouldn't know that he's gay. So you can't determine that because that one neighborhood had all these out people in it. They're living there because they want to be out and open about their home, about their sexuality, and so that's where they live. you can't judge everybody by that.
Is it plausible that American society artificially is creating gay and lesbian and trans people? Are all of them actually gay and lesbian? Let's start there. Are all of them actually even gay and lesbian? I think in order to answer that question, we'd have to go back and we'd have to look at the 90s. In the 90s, it was a very particular decade in which there sort of was this explosion of these culturally iconic moments in which people were coming out and saying, I'm a lesbian or I'm gay. And it got a lot of attention in the media, and these individuals were celebrated, right? As just one example, Melissa Etheridge, she is a singer, and she was singing at a Bill Clinton inauguration party when she announced that she was, in fact, a lesbian. Take a listen.
My sister Katie Lang has been such an inspiration and such the greatest thing I've ever seen this year. But I'm proud to say right here, I'm very proud to have been a lesbian all my life.
This obviously meant a lot to individuals around the country who perhaps were suffering and were in the closet and were feeling that they had no cultural people in the public space to talk about same-sex attraction. She wasn't the only one, by the way, in the 90s. Of course, maybe even more notably was Ellen DeGeneres. Ellen DeGeneres came out on her show and she said that she was gay, and then she was given a Time cover. Here is the cover of Time magazine, and the title of it is Yup, I'm Gay. And it's Ellen DeGeneres, and she's smiling. And you can imagine, by the way, that if you were a person and you were taking in this content and you were reading Time magazine and then you watched Ellen DeGeneres' show, she is one of the most likable people during her show. She's fun, she's amazing. And if you're a person and you're thinking, oh, maybe I'm lesbian, what an amazing lesbian icon to have to follow, right? Everybody likes Ellen DeGeneres. Everybody loved her show.
In the 90s, we didn't have the internet and social media like we do now. We had the beginnings of what we have now. And a lot has changed since the 90s. In fact, when Ellen came out, I was just starting to come out. I had gone back to college in my late 30s, and I graduated when I was 40 years old from college. And during that time, Ellen came out, and it was like, wow, it just helped me to come out. It didn't make me gay. And sure, people are gonna answer the Gallup poll however they want to, but I would guess there are more gay people than there are not gay people, and I think the numbers continue to go up, and some of that is indoctrination, and some of that is just coming to know who we are. Now, I do agree that there seems to be a lot of growth, as you might say, in the trans community. It just seems like there's a lot of, it just seemed like it kind of just blew up all of a sudden. And I don't know if it's just because we hear about it more, or if kids are actually, if they really are trans. I think that when you're under 25 years of age, you might not know exactly what you're feeling.
Not mentioned, however, and I am not trying to draw conclusions for either of these women, but both of these women have also talked about the fact that they were sexually abused when they were younger. Before they found fame, they went through periods of sexual abuse. Is it related? It's understandable, I suppose. Of course, it's understandable that if you had been harmed by an individual of a certain sex, that you would shy away from all healthy sexual relations with that particular sex. But is that the right thing, right? Instead of acknowledging that these people have been harmed and trying to help them, we now have a society that just celebrates it. They just say, oh, this is completely normal. It's just this, everything that you're feeling is completely normal and it's completely valid. And buried beneath could be an individual that is hurt, that is still hurting, and that would make different decisions if people reached in and helped them. But we can't talk about that because that would be, I guess, gay conversion therapy, right? Which has all of these dark medieval tones, according to the internet, according to leftists.
You can't deny that somebody else is gay if they say they're gay or trans or anything like that. That's not for us to determine. That's for that person to determine. Just like I can't say another person's an alcoholic. They have to say that, even though you might see that they're an alcoholic. or you might think they're an alcoholic, but what you think, Candace, is not what the person in that skin knows about themselves. And as far as, you know, people being gay because Ellen's gay, come on, people don't practice a kind of sexuality because somebody they like does. I mean, that's just, no, it just doesn't work that way. They might do it for a little bit, but they're not going to live that lifestyle. Why would you live that lifestyle if you weren't inherently that? And yes, I believe that we are born that way. I also believe that you can, you know, the nature nurture question, but I also believe that you can become gay because of things that happen, the nature part. But I can specifically say that when you're talking about people being sexually abused as children, that never happened. That never happened to me. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe, and maybe share it out to some of your friends. I'll be doing these videos on this channel, so I would really appreciate your support, and just give me a like and a subscribe. Thank you.